But in terms of schools, man, like I was at school today and I tested negative for the coronavirus, which is good, and the little quick test, which could be a
Congratulations.
false. Yeah, thank you. I'm all painted up. You can see I'm painted because my daughter was. She was painting with tempera paint
Mhm.
today, and anyway, I have to clean it off later. Um, but the a woman who tested basically right after me tested positive, and
Oh yeah, man. The
yeah,
big problem
she was
is
talking. She
you
was sorry,
you
uh
she was talking to you before you
well, she wasn't talking
tested.
to me, but she was talking to other people, saying, "Yeah, I don't wear a mask. I don't wear a mask." And I know from conversations with her that sometimes she likes to go out and drink. So I don't doubt
Uh,
that she's been to one of the bars talking loud.
the big
Spitting,
problem
spitting, spitting.
of the labs is you go like negative, you go to the lab to be tested, but you are negative, and you can be infected in the lab. Like before testing, someone can talk to you, and this person is positive. So you test it, and you are positive now. Okay. And at the same time, I think probably the schools are demanding for the teachers to be tested before going back to school. So, what about the students? Is it necessary for the kids to be tested before?
I don't know. No one's told me anything about that. Um, I'm just hoping to God somebody comes to their senses and says, "Hey, this is a bad idea." And I don't necessarily believe that the schools are going to be a vector of transmission, especially if there's at least the private schools is what I'm talking about. The public schools are going to be a disaster, especially the public schools for teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, dear
Yeah.
God, I'm worried that somebody's going to die there. But I'm not so worried about the private schools because there's going to be very small numbers of kids coming back. Like, as I
Mm-hmm.
said,
Mm-hmm.
four or
Yeah.
five people per group for me. And but I am kind of worried about like the being around the professors and the spaces and the people who clean because you can't really vouch for anybody else's care that they're
Mm-hmm.
taking except people you know, like my wife. I know that she's careful. I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm careful.
Sure.
You, who I know, Vinícius, you could be at a bar
Yeah.
with a mask around your
Yeah,
chin,
man.
drinking some Heinekens most of the day, and then you just came to class. I don't know. I don't know.
Sometimes the school are taking hard measures to prevent people from being infected, but you don't know about people themselves in their houses.
What?
It's impossible to control.
Yeah.
It's a risk. We are
So
taking risks, and now at this moment we are close to 90,000 deaths in Brazil, but and we are really in the peak, and people are living normally.
yeah,
Most
it's
of them, most of them, and
normal life
I
with
could see I
masks.
could see on the streets yesterday a lot of people with no masks, like like if the pandemic had finished. So it's a very dangerous moment
Yeah.
because, for example, I can say that's in Defensoria, for example, there was an increase of 300% in people looking for intensive care, yeah, in the federal district. It's interesting because we can see some contradictory solidarity, people living normal lives and giving parties, having parties at home, inviting a lot of people to be together, and on the other hand, distributing food for poor people, for people who lost their jobs because of the coronavirus. I can't understand this selective solidarity. What do you think about that? Because a lot of people are doing that. Oh, I'm distributing food for people who lost their jobs, but at the same time, I'm having parties with a lot of friends together.
Yeah.
I can't
Well,
understand that.
yeah, I think what's happening is that people are just really tired. It's quarantine fatigue. People can't be bothered to stay at home. People can't be bothered to worry about this anymore. And I think we've got kind of two directions we can go in now. We can either one have a total lockdown, have a
Hmm.
total lockdown, which we never did in Brazil. We haven't done in Brasilia yet. A total lockdown, not yet.
No, no, no.
or two, um, the disease becomes simply endemic,
Mm-hmm.
which it just spreads throughout and it's seasonal, it comes and goes. Until we actually get some sort of herd immunity, which could take a while. But I'm not to the point yet where I'm going to give up. I tested negative today. I've got a baby at home. I
For
got my
sure.
wife who was just pregnant. I
Yeah.
was in postpartum, and it's like I'm not ready to give up and say, "Oh, everybody's going to get it. Let's just let everybody get it." No,
I
no.
think
I
if you tested negative, it's an indication that you are doing well. Like you are preventing yourself from being in
yeah.
dangerous places. Of course, nobody is totally safe, but the more you take care of yourself, the less the probability of being infected. So if you tested negative, okay, you have to continue taking your measures to be safe. It's complicated to say that we are ready to a total lockdown in the city in Brasilia because people need to work. We had this type of talk other times. People need to put foods on their table. At the same time, I think the state has to oversee hardly if the shops, if businesses are taking the necessary measures for people to be safe in these places. With the
So
state overseeing that, I think we can reopen the economy in a reasonable degree of safety.
needs is being an educator. I'm very worried about the future of our children.
Mhm,
I have a 3-year old, and she's been in lockdown since March. That's over 4 months. This will have a very large impact on her growing up. I can't imagine the impact it's having on children her age or older in houses where the parents aren't very well organized, where the parents are busy, where the parents are having problems with each other, where the parents are fighting all the time because it's a difficult time
mhm,
financially. People are having difficulties. Relationships are going bad. So this is going to leave a very big scar on us, and I think we're going to need schools. We're going to need schools. We're going to need educators to help people deal with
mhm,
this, help children deal with this, because it's going to leave a mark on us. So I believe that schools are incredibly essential.
mhm,
Um, and I don't think that now is the best time to reopen them, but I think we've got to start making some sort of plan to deal with the mental issues and the developmental issues the kids are having. I mean, when I go back to my schooling and I think about how much I developed from one semester, from the beginning of one semester to the end of a semester, it was a lot. You too, and now the children are losing that. They've lost a whole
mhm.
semester. That's big, and there's a whole lot to learn involving this. But I think the tendency I'm seeing is that we're kind of falling a little bit more into chaos than anything else. So
Do you think
I'm
online
incredibly
classes
worried.
are enough to deal with this problem? No,
God, no.
it isn't working.
no
No.
no one cares, Vinicius. I mean, give an online class for a 6-year-old, good luck. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not paying attention in the class.
Uh-huh.
He's 6 years old. He needs to be jumping up and down. Right? He
Sure.
needs to be running
Uh-huh.
around. He needs to be looking at leaves. He doesn't need to be trying to form an L at this point or an R. He just needs to be running around and discovering things and playing with his friends.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Yeah,
a,
and the
but
main
it's
point when you speak about kids education, the main point is social interaction. If they don't have
yeah,
it, it doesn't make sense.
yeah. Meanwhile, I've been driving around these days. I've been making it a point to drive by Fausto and Manuel because I drove by on Friday night and
Hmm.
it was full. And then I think
It
I
was
drove,
full and people with
yeah,
no mask. It's impossible to use
right.
masks
When you're
at
drinking and eating,
bars
right?
because
Yeah.
people are drinking and eating.
hmm
So
And
they don't use it.
and I was coming home. We took Maria to her school to play in the playground there today. With no other children, she played by herself, and we were taking her home. And I said to drive by again, and there was still a good amount of people there.
Mm-hmm.
and the streets were full. But in Fausto Manuel, at one table, there was a couple with a little baby drinking. And I was just like shocked on multiple levels. Shocked on
Uh-huh.
multiple levels, Vinicius.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are, and this is how it's going to be. And people are dying. I think on Saturday night, a child died. If I look at Metropolis today, right now, I'm sure that I will see that approximately 30 people have died in the last 24 hours.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
interesting. In the beginning of the pandemic, the prediction was if things went wrong, like 9,000 deaths. Now we are achieving in a couple of days 100,000 with no prediction about when it's gonna
Yeah,
be over. Like we don't know
yeah.
if it's gonna achieve 500,000 or 1 million deaths. We really don't know. It's not to exaggerate if we say that maybe we can have 1 million deaths, because if 3 or 4 months ago we had said that we would have achieved 100,000, nobody would believe it. So
Yeah.
complicated to say,
Nobody would have believed it.
would have believed it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were models talking about it, and the United States is basically flying directly into the model. like if
Uh-huh.
we're about to crash land into our own model, like we could very well get up to 250,000 deaths pretty quickly. Um,
200, 250,000
yeah, I
deaths.
mean, in a certain amount of time, if we continue on the path we're on, which I
Mm-hmm.
haven't looked at it today, but our death rate is going up again. And if we get back to a time when we were having over 2,000 deaths per day, we are in a serious problem. We're gonna have a serious problem.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, at least we have football, and at least we have basketball,
Uh-huh.
and at least we have baseball. And I don't know about hockey. Maybe it's not hockey season. Yeah. The daily death graph in the United States, Vinicius, for your viewing displeasure.
Mm-hmm. Oh man. But what about the last days?
So in the last, you can see that
Is
from
there
from the
is
beginning.
there a decrease?
No, from the beginning of
Is there a
July
decrease?
to now, over the last 4 weeks, it has been increasing.
It's been increasing. Okay.
It's going up again. So anyway,
Uh-huh. Okay. And now it's going up again.
yeah, that's
Complicated.
that.
In Brazil, the problem is we've been having more than 1,000 deaths for 2 months, I think, with no prediction
Hmm.
of flattening the curve. So now we don't know if we are going to 2,000 deaths per day or 500, or it's going
Right.
to decrease.
Well,
No
now that
prediction.
now that Fausto Manuel's open, who knows? Brazil. So